Live on stage, the sound
of Orlando.
So, if they ready, the sound
of Orlando.
What is going on, party people? What is going on? We're back for another episode. This is the Sound of Orlando show. I am your boy Rome, man. Welcome to the show. For all my people that are just tuning in for the first time, this is your boy Rome. This show is the Sound of Orlando show, affectionately called the So Show, not Sue. So, okay. So, shout out to all my peoples tuning in from across the United States and abroad, man. We appreciate y'all, man. We appreciate the support. I like to start off the show by, just thanking a lot of people out here, man, in our city who have been instrumental in spreading the word and letting people know this is the place for our legends to speak, talk about our culture, talk about the diverse people that represent that culture. We know in this day and age right now, 2021, man, where it's all about recognizing what we are trying to walk away from, which is the continuation of racism in our country. And so for all the people that, are suffering right now in some sort of oppression, whether it be, the Asian community, or dealing with all kinds of attacks on them, whether it's our fellow people of color, Black folks who are dealing with it, whether it's our friends and family who are white, who are dealing with family and this idea or this old idea of maintaining the status quo and, or trying to put up with all this nonsense. Kudos to all of you guys for, recognizing it and hanging in there, man, because it's tough right now. And you got to be real. You got to be 100% real if you are going to stamp this out. If we are going to stomp racism out in our country, we have got to come together. So kudos to everybody out there fighting a good fight, man. We need y'all, and we all love y'all, man. So welcome to the show. My next guest coming on tonight represents that same type of unity. When I met her back in the days, she was just literally in the streets, out here promoting event after event, pushing a magazine that represented our city called the Ozone Magazine, the Orlando Source, as it was once called. She was just out here spreading the word. You could catch her with artists from our city and abroad, all trying this notion of our city's got something to say. Orlando's got something to say. She's been out here in the streets from day one. She's been on radio, straight out of high school, starting a street team, and having probably one of the most significant impacts to spread the word in our city that I can even, compare to outside of maybe a couple of people. She has been steadfast in the idea that Orlando needs to be heard. I have mad respect for her for that, because like myself, we need our city to shine. And that's all we've been trying to do this entire career, is just put our city on the map and let people know that our city is the place for talent and all things above, So without any further ado, let me bring on to me the legendary street team queen, Mercedes Streets. What's good?
What's good, party people?
What is good? Welcome to
I appreciate the intro, because it's made me reflect. I'm already reflecting on just all the years. It's crazy.
It's crazy, man. Time flies, especially when you got a purpose and when you got a mission. It seems like there's not enough time. And but man, you have done so much for this city. Some of it won't be talked about, but for the people that know, you and know what you've done, I mean, your shit is gonna be legendary for this city's history. You know,
I hope I can
there's
do more. There's so much more to be done.
man,
You know.
talk about it, talk about it. But before we get into that, for the people that don't know who Mercedes Streets is, tell people, you know, how you were introduced to this thing of ours called hip hop and what brought you to the game.
I can tell you my first hip hop memory. I had to be 4 or 5 years old in somewhere in Ocoee in the backyard of a daycare center, and a guy walked by with a boombox playing hip hop. And
Man,
that was my first memory of hip hop. And just as I got older, hearing it and being around it, and then being in school, like my friends were either rappers or DJs or producers, and I would either freestyle with them or write with them. I started making mixtapes and selling them in high school. I actually started my street team in high school promoting parties. I wasn't even old enough to get in the clubs, but we back then it wasn't as strict, you know what I mean?
right, right,
So that
right.
was pretty much how it got started. It was just natural.
Man, most people want to go to the club. Most people, you know, want to go to the house parties. You said, I'm gonna start a street team. I mean, without getting too bogged down in the details,
Mhm.
why the street team?
It wasn't even like I had ever even heard of a street team before. It was just my friend was throwing a party. I knew the whole school. I was the co-captain of my dance team. I was on the track team. I was even on the step team. The girls asked me to be on it when they saw me dance on the regular team. So I just knew everybody. So I'm like, well, I know everybody. Let me let them know about it. And that was before cell phones and social media. We had beepers. So flyers were the only thing that, really got the word out to everybody.
Man. And what school did you go to?
I went to Oviedo High School, and then I went to Lake Howell, and I graduated from Lake Mary.
Damn, girl, you traveling. Shout out to Oviedo High and that Lake Howell movement over there. And then you went to what?
I graduated from Lake Mary.
Lake Mary. Didn't
I
know too
started
many
out,
people at Lake Mary.
I don't really know that many people there, because by the time I got there, I was about to graduate. It was just a circumstance of my family divorcing and remarrying and moving and just changing schools. But I started out on the west side at Ocoee Elementary when I was 6. So that's where it got started.
Oh, damn. West side
Yeah.
to the east side.
Yeah.
Shout out. I don't know too many people, you know, in that Lake Mary situation, but shout out to my peoples in Lyman, in that Altamont that went to Lyman High. So you're starting out of high school. You're doing a street team. You know, when people come out of high school, normally they say, well, you know, if whatever you're doing at the time may not be that serious, and you kind of it'll be shown soon. You know, like people take up things all the time and drop it. You kept on with it. Talk about that, and what did you see once you got out of high school? Why did you stay with it?
So when I graduated high school, I met Malik Abdul. He had actually, I met NSX first, and he had the 95
Shout
Live.
out, yep. Shout out,
95
shout out to Low Balls and NSX, man. Yes.
Yeah, so they had the 95 Live, and I was already promoting some of the parties. And when I graduated high school, I turned 18 right after that in the summer. And that weekend, when I turned 18, I met Mr. CC, the reggae ambassador, at his party. And I started talking to him because he was trying to talk to my friend, my best friend that was with me. So she ended up getting pregnant, and I ended up getting a career. That's just how it went. But I told him what I wanted to do. I was actually telling him that I wanted to own my own nightclub. And I had just turned 18, but that was just what I wanted. I actually drew up plans and a business plan and everything. It was my career report in high school, actually, to own a nightclub.
Damn.
And I even went and interviewed some of the strip club owners, and my teacher got mad at me that she thought it was inappropriate.
Wow.
but that was just what I wanted to do. Like I knew it was going to be something with music and entertainment and parties. And so I'm trying to backtrack, but basically between meeting NSX and that crew and then meeting Mr. CC, that kind of snowballed everything just between the radio and the parties. And then, CC was partners with DJ Nasty and DJ Pro Style. So not only did we have reggae parties and artists, we also had hip hop parties and artists. And Nasty and Pro Style individually were like, you could turn this into a whole different business. Instead of just being a street team for parties, you could be a street team for all the record labels. So I started meeting the record labels through Nasty and Pro Style. And even some of the reggae record labels like VP from Mr. CC. Right. So that's what turned me into like working with all the record labels. Wow. And it just kind of naturally snowballed. Just you meet one person, you meet that person. And then, Julia came along. We started Ozone Magazine together after Greg G had Big Life Magazine, and I was working with him with that. Mert bought Greg G's magazine Big Life and turned that into the Orlando Source, where Julia was the editor and I was the promotion company. But I ended up being with her, taking pictures, writing articles, that's how I started doing interviews. So then that turned into Ozone Magazine. It really was just kind of a natural thing back then, just meeting new people and starting new projects.
And I remember that time period. Shout out to that whole 95 Live movement. I was just discussing with someone the other day how important 95 Live was to Orlando. And
it really was.
Though it was pirate, it gave everybody the feeling that our city was being represented on radio. Because at that time we didn't have the YouTube, we didn't have the all of this access like we do today. But what that did, and I felt for certain people, it we talked about it that night. It gave people the sense of being okay with being from here. I love that. When I met you guys through Orlando Source, when it was the Orlando Source, and like I said, I remember it just felt so good that you guys were acknowledging everyone in the city. There wasn't no click game. Certain people having, certain spots. 95 Live was the same thing. I DJ'd on 95 Live. Shout out to NSX. They were open arms with it when they could have been what the status quo was in Orlando, being a clique.
But that's what they were anti that. They wanted to have a voice for all the artists and producers and DJs. Right. Because we have so much talent from back then. That has gone by the wayside that didn't even get a chance. Right. That didn't even get no kind of look in. And I'm not putting the responsibility on workers. There were a lot of people that were decision makers that decided to say, okay, we're not even going to put up a fight. We're going to allow all of this other corporate interest to come into play. But, you guys, along with others, myself, we're out here literally public enemying Orlando, trying to make the people know what we're doing out here. Like, so many people during that time, I remember we had all the hip hop groups, we had all the artists coming down here performing, and it just felt like, yeah, see you later, but you guys chronicalized everything. Had there been no kind of way of like putting it down of what party was going on or who was here. Shout out to Jesse Jazz for doing some of that chronicalizing, Mark Designs, all of these people that said, hey, this happened, nobody would know. Right. Because when the internet kind of became a thing, Jesse Jazz was the one that started OrlandoHipHop.com. Right. And it was pretty much a forum. I mean, it was before, there was a World Star, or even how people could easily make their music videos and put them online. It was just
Right.
a forum. And that was actually how I got the idea to start posting the flyers. You know, I would find a way to get it. You know, I got a printer and would scan the flyer and then upload it to the forums. And then when cell phones came out, right when I turned 18, the summer was when it was easier to get a cell phone. Like people were going around selling them for companies. And I created a text message for one of Mr. CC's parties and sent it to every contact I had. And even CC replied to me like, "What the fuck is this? Like, what are you doing?" And I'm
Right,
like,
right.
I'm texting everybody that we know that this is where, like, whatever concert it was, you know, Red Rat and Beanie Man or something, you know, just to let them know that's the next concert. And that was how I started my whole other kind of promotion idea, of putting it in text message, online forums, email, trying to start a new way to promote things
Right.
besides just passing out flyers everywhere.
Right. And don't get it twisted, people. Orlando, there's a trash bin somewhere of the thousands upon hundreds of thousands upon millions and billions, and Trump's voice, billions and billions of flyers that have been made in Florida. Like there was an orgy of flyers for
Well, I have,
decades.
you know those bins that are like this big. I have probably 10.
Recyclable bins. Recyclable bins, right?
No, like the ones with the lids, like the big ones.
Oh, okay, got you.
I have at least 10 of those where I kept every single piece of promotional material I ever passed out. So if there's, yeah, they're all in my guest bedroom.
You hear
So
that, Orlando? You're gonna have to
man,
put up a museum or something. With
man,
that.
if there's ever a way to chronicleize, I don't even know. Like I've been trying to go through and take pictures of them, but I mean, it's thousands of flyers. Even just anything I passed out, like for one of Eve's songs, the tambourine song, there's like a little tambourine, you know, just all the little promotional materials, lighters, thumb drives.
Wow, man,
I
bro.
tried to keep 2 of every Ozone magazine, but after I had moved, that was taking up so much space. But all of those are online now, so I wasn't really worried about keeping all of them. You can go through them online.
And can you give out that address for anybody that wants to? Because I'm probably right there with you. I'll get that address after I talk to you. But where can everybody get an Ozone? You know, at least look.
It's a website that does all the magazines. If you Google just Ozone magazine, past issues or something like that, I'll find the link when we're done and post it in the comments.
Okay, cool.
That way,
cool.
and then I'll just make it available so if anybody wants to look at it.
Okay. I know in the promotions game and marketing, any advertisement, the objective is to target your audience and find some way to be annoying but not annoying. Like you gotta.
I always struggled with that.
Right. You want to get everybody at least the word out, but you don't want to be annoying about it. But it has to be annoying because no one would pay attention. You know, I'm learning this on many levels now that I'm doing this show. How important, it's just consistent, and you can't care about who's going. You can't take it personal if the people you thought were going or not going. You know, how was that for you, kind of finding that, like you said, balance to whereas you don't take it personal if your people don't show up or people kind of ignore what you're doing, if you will. Talk about that.
Just a rule in life. I mean, for anything, you don't know what other people are going through. You know what I mean? Like I might be having a party and invite everybody, and like some people don't show up that I thought were going to, and then I'll find out later that something had happened. You know, kid got sick, so it's like I can't even let it even be on my mind at all. So if somebody doesn't show up, they don't show up. Like, unless they were supposed to perform or something, like they had a role in the event, that I'm not going to be upset about it. And even just passing out flyers at the door at the end of the night at the parties. I mean, I remember somebody like frisbeed a flyer back into my eye and like cut my eye. You know what I mean? And
What?
yeah, I mean, people are assholes. Like, no matter what job you have, like, you could be working at 7-Eleven and someone's going to treat you like shit. You know what I
Right.
mean? Or you could be
Right.
doing what I do, and like, I could be backstage with Rick Ross and go back to the front of the club to pass out the flyers for the next Gucci Man concert, and someone treats me like shit. And I was just hanging out with multimillionaires. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So it's just like, you just have to know what you believe in and what you're doing and not worry about it. You really just
Right.
can't. And that
I
just
mean-
goes with life. I mean, anything.
Right. You hear that, Orlando? Get over yourself. You said something serious there, because for a lot of people, artists in general too, they live and die by their promotions or by the lack thereof. You know, I know back in the days where there was actual physical products,
Right.
you know, magazines, records, tapes, CDs.
I could barely hold everything my team and I were passing out between
Right.
products and flyers and magazines and just,
Right.
you know, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. CDs.
A lot of that physical stuff, even back then, was hard, but you were actually giving something to someone.
Yeah.
Now we live in a time where it's different. Everything is kind of sent. You know, is it harder now or easier for you now to promote? Whereas back then you actually kind of had to almost physically be wherever you were giving something.
Yeah.
Is it easier now in that regard, or has it become much harder because you don't know if they respond?
My love-hate relationship with the internet and the internet promo since starting having like a physical street team is is a Mercedes V Streets. That's funny. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, that distracted me.
Shout out to my man Seth One. Yes.
Thank you. It's been a love-hate relationship because when it first started, I mean, I was on top of it. You know, I was like, I created a text message blast without anybody showing me. I created, let me go buy a printer and scan the flyer and put it on the internet on OrlandoHipHop.com forum. You know, the email blast. I created all of that in my own brain. I wasn't the only one across the country, but I came up with those ideas, and I loved that we could have a new way to promote. But then it became so oversaturated. Anybody could just be like, I'm a promoter. Like, I get DMs from people that have 20 followers that are like, I can get you 1,000 followers. And I'm like, well, I have thousands. You have 20. Like, what are you going to do for me? Like, everybody can just call themselves a promoter. And that's also the good part about it. You know, this created a career for me when, you know, I was on my own when I was in high school. Like, I graduated high school working 3 jobs and promoting parties. I was supporting myself. You know, my parents didn't give me anything. I didn't graduate high school and get a big chunk of money to start my business. Like, I did everything myself. But hip hop created a career for me that I could do without going to college. You know what I mean? So it created so many job opportunities across the country and then across the world for people. So I don't want to shit on the fact that people can just be like, I'm a promoter. But it's just like, you know, you just can't say you're a promoter and not have following and build up a fan base and, you know, do the work. That's how I feel about it. And
Right.
now it's like everybody says that they do what I do and they charge, you know, 1/10 of what I charge. And most people are going to go for the cheaper price and not with someone like me because I charge more money. They don't see the value sometimes. They just say, well, I hired somebody to do a job. They don't look at, well, what was the job? You know, like I hired 2 different companies and I actually gave them 2 different links and compared the numbers. And it was a drastic difference. Like, I would do things like that to see like what works, what doesn't work. But they feel like, well, I hired somebody to promote me, but it doesn't matter if they have 100 followers or they don't even know the first DJ to go to give them the music. You know,
Right.
it's like, what were they promoting? I mean, putting something online, it's just like a poof. It's like poof, like who actually saw it, you know?
Right.
You still have to go physically be out with the people, you know, going
Right.
to events and not just clubs. I mean, there's community events where you can go, like if your music's appropriate like that. But being with people and going out to the barbershops, to the stores and to, just the clothing stores and everything, like those are still important. And the internet, you might get more people, but those people are seeing 20,000 images. When you actually go and you're with people and you're like, here's my thing, this is who I am, I'm this artist, this is my name, they have a personal connection. And you'll hear it every time. Like, people don't necessarily like an artist, but then they meet them or talk to them, and now they love them because there's a personal connection.
Man.
And the internet might give you the exposure, but there's no personal connection.
Man, you just dropped like several bombs on the city. This free game, man.
I'm getting a lot off my chest.
she's dropping free game on y'all tonight, man. Man, that's serious, man, because for a lot of people feel like in this game or this thing of ours called hip hop, it's a zero-sum game. It's one or the other, and like you said, damn near quoting Fred Hampton, where there's people, there's power. If you're with the people, there's more power in that than there is, kind of masquerading that you're with the people.
Yeah.
How important is it for artists to get that through their heads? Because to your point, you describe like what DJs go through, right? Like a DJ will come along and be like, "I'll DJ for $50."
Right. Undercut everybody else.
Right.
And can't rock the party.
Right. And you're like, dude, like $50. You done spent 10 grand on your shit.
Mm-hmm.
You're not spending 10 grand on some shit you don't know about. Most people buy cars because they know how to drive. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that buy cars just to have them, but most people buy cars because they know how to drive the car. Back in the days, you didn't spend all that money on techniques, and the mixer and the speakers if you didn't know how to do it.
Right.
So to your point, does it fuck you up when you can't make people understand, like, dude, like I do this. This is what I do.
Yeah. It's like the artists that come to me now that are just like, well, can you just buy me all the Spotify playlist placements and all that stuff? And I'm like, yeah, but if that's all you're doing, it's just like, okay, somebody heard a good song they might have liked. They might not even glance down to see who the artist is.
Right.
You got to hit from so many different angles. And kind of going back to what you were saying before, the biggest example I can think of is like a Papa Duck. Papa Duck was with the people. Like, he would send his street team city to city to promote him. They would give out CDs. They would put up posters. People would be like, who the fuck is Papa Duck? And then they would get a CD whenever they went to the barbershop or a clothing store or just ran into the street team. He had the wrapped vehicles. So imagine you just walk out to your city, like your area, you're in Alabama, and you see all this Papa Duck stuff. I have no idea who he is. But then the street team went to the DJs. So the DJs were playing his music in the clubs that night. And then the DJs and the promoters, he would work a deal with them and go back and perform and take like a part of the door. And he would go back again. And he would line up all these cities. Now, Papa Duck is not known internationally, maybe, like on like a Rick Ross level or a Gucci Mane level. But that man had a career. And he would tour constantly and had a crazy fan base. I remember being on tour with him, and we got off a highway, I want to say Mississippi or Alabama. I mean, it was a dirt road basically, and it was a gas station that we got gas at. We're walking into the gas station, and these two girls start screaming and crying because they saw Papa Duck. They couldn't believe that they just stopped at a gas station and we just happened to be there because his music meant so much to them. And he was consistently on the road, and he would be out there and they would go to his shows. So, I mean, you don't have to be Drake. You know what I mean? Like, you can go out there and meet the people and create a fan base and live off of this.
Right.
Getting money off of shows, getting features. I mean, a lot of like it's back to what you were saying, like a zero sum game, either all or nothing. Either you're Drake or you're nothing, and that's not true. There's so many levels that you can still create a career out here.
Right. And Mercedes Streets, the legendary Mercedes Streets, is joining us tonight on the Soul Show. It's Women's Month, and she is a legend in our community, in our city. Y'all better recognize. You're talking about promotions and the life that it requires to do promotions. Like, promotions is not easy. It's a relentless, nonstop, targeted. I equivocate it to taking money and burning it right in front of you like fireworks. But
I feel you.
But in hopes that the finale firework everyone sees. Like, everybody's it's like coming to Lake Eola for 4th of July fireworks, and everybody's still kind of finding their way in there, and then they put that fucking 10-minute finale. Everyone catches that one. And that's what you want. You're just hoping that one of the promotions that you did was the finale firework.
That sparks the firework.
Right, and that everyone sees at the same time. Is it easy, given your years of experience in doing this, to have a set budget on what it would require? Can you gauge on what for let me say, for example, for young artists who may not have management, who may not, all they got is a song and a dream. And is it a way to gauge that that doesn't require them to be broke? And I'm saying this with the caveat that we live in a society right now that everyone pretends that they have money,
right?
Or flosses that they have money, but are literally lackadaisical when it comes to all the things that go behind how to get that money.
Right.
Your job is to get whatever's going on out there. What's the hardest thing you had to promote, and that you could kind of come up with that challenged you so hard that you were
to the first part of what you were saying, having a budget, there is no exact number. Every time I work with a new artist, I ask them what their budget is. And I have to explain that to them. Like, I'm not saying budget like you're broke. Like, that's what they take it as. And they get kind of weird with me. But I'm like, no, I mean, what could you afford to spend where it's not going to fuck up your life and your bills on either a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis?
Right.
Because once you tell me how much money you can spend, I can break down where we need to start. And then we need to, lock your name in. We need to, do the legal things first before you start promoting your song. Because I've had artists where we started promoting something and then their name was taken. Somebody else owned it. And then we had to start all over again. So I learned from that. It's like, no, we need to do these things first. And then whatever money you can put towards marketing and promotions, I'll break down the best way to use your money, to utilize your money. Because I've had people come to me with a budget of $1,000 a month, and I've had people come to me with a budget with over $100,000 for a couple months, promotion campaign. So it's not an exact number. I mean, I've seen people break with no money. Just something about their song got to the right person. And I mean, I could be working with an artist for 6 months doing everything right, and then the other artist does barely anything and they break. I mean, there's no exact science. It's so frustrating.
Right.
But we just have to do the work, until something breaks.
And you just told the truth with that, because when it comes to record companies, we all celebrate all the artists that were on major record labels, but we don't realize how many more artists never got out or we never heard from.
I have a couple hard drives. I have 2 terabyte hard drives of music that the world will never hear that is incredible. But the artist either just gave up, passed away, went to jail, something, you know?
Right. Or and to your point, even the companies, there were so many artists that came out through the 90s, through the 80s, I mean, 2000s, 2010s, credible music, but they either lacked the budget or, to your point, they did everything right. They put it out everywhere and nobody rocked with it.
Yeah.
When you think of Orlando, what is the thing that stands out for you when it comes to that kind of medium? Marketing and promotions, and the platforms or the ability to get the word out where people are working with you. Because marketing and promotions is awesome when the people are working with you. When people receive what you're marketing, when people are when the radio stations are receiving what you're marketing, or the, maybe the retailers, what have you. What do you think about Orlando when you think of marketing and promotions and in that metaphor?
Like, if I could tell every artist, the biggest thing that I see that they're lacking is moving outside of Orlando. Not moving, but just going outside of Orlando and moving around in other cities and networking, going to other clubs, meeting DJs in other cities. Like, you can start just going to Tampa, go to Ocala and Gainesville, go to Jacksonville, go down to West Palm Beach and then Miami. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be all at one time, but just start moving outside of Orlando, and you'll be amazed what opportunities come up. You just might talk to the right person. I mean, my whole career is based off of just meeting people. Like, when we would do the Core DJ music conferences, we did them every 6 months, twice a year, in a different city every year. And I could be out there for a week or two, either setting up, for 2 weeks, like setting up the event, being at the event, running the event, and then cleaning up the event. And I would meet so many people and come back home with all new contacts and new business and checks coming in from people wanting to hire me, just because I went to a different city and talked to everybody, and people would see me, and once I started really getting a name and they would recognize it, people would just grab me and start talking to me and be like, I was waiting to meet you. I want to hire you. I see what you did for this label or that label. But the more you move around, the more people you meet, the more your name just gets out there. And it really doesn't cost you that much money to drive down to Tampa. You don't even have to stay the night. Like, if you're really trying to keep your money tight, drive down there. Don't get fucked up to the point where you can't drive back. Like, go out there, do your job, meet the DJs, talk to people out there, network. You'd be surprised you could just meet. Like, you could just meet a random producer and then end up in the studio, and then they're working with somebody else, and now you've got a song with somebody like Zoe Dollars or something. You never know. But if you don't go out there and meet these people, you don't know what opportunities you're missing. The biggest thing to me too, besides that, that's the thing I can say, please do that. The second thing is, everybody, like what you were saying, just fronting like they have money, but then when it comes to doing anything, they don't have it. And to me, that has been my biggest frustration with clients, because I'll start working for somebody and I'll hype them up, and then they don't have the money to follow up like how they said they did. And then the promotion is over, I'm done with them. And then people are like, well, what happened to who you were working with? What happened to that person? And I'm like, I can't work for free for everybody. Like, I'm already managing a couple artists where I'm not getting paid. But if somebody calls me to hire me and says they have this much of a budget and then can't follow through with that, it's just like, I can't even tell you how many times that's happened. And that's one of the biggest things, just me personally, almost made me want to even quit doing this. It got to the point where it was just like an epidemic of people fronting like they had money. When I told them from the beginning, if you're real with me about what money you have, I can budget you. Like, I can pick and choose the more important things. Like, I don't turn anybody down. I mean, as long as they have some kind of money to work with, because I'm not coming out of my pocket anymore. Like, I'm not a record label. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not doing that anymore. But if you want to hire me, you need to at least have the money you said you have and do the things that you're supposed to do. Because at some points it made me look bad. Like, I just dropped clients or wasn't working with people.
Well, The first disagreement of the night is that you are a record label. Probably
Well,
been a record
I would say it's
label.
a pseudo record label just
Right,
because it had to become one. But I'm not like looking for artists to invest money. You know what I mean?
right.
I already got a couple artists I'm working with that takes up everything.
Well, most record labels have been reduced down to, you know, marketing, promotion, and distribution, which distribution at this time is muddled in marketing and promotion. So it's all similarly the same thing.
That's kind of the same thing I've kind of come up with. I think from our last conversation, we agreed like it has kind of become that. I mean, it
It's
has. It has.
it's muddled. I mean, thanks to technology, the lines have blurred. You also said something about, the idea of people coming in with good intentions and then showing you that no, I can't hang.
I wouldn't
Um,
even say they came in with good intentions. It's like they knew, but just like how they front online with the money, they fronted to me. You know
right.
what I mean? And that's where my frustration lies. Instead of
Well,
just being
motherfuckers
real.
will come up with money for bail. You can believe
Oh
that.
yeah, of course.
Motherfuckers gonna come up for
And
money for that.
for a bottle and for VIP.
Right. They're
Right.
gonna come up with that money. I mean,
Yeah.
but part of the artistry, you know, and I know you've seen it left and right. Artists are complicated people. Um, Probably they're like servers, right? They serve your food with a smile,
Hmm.
and they go back in the hall and they cuss your ass out. Um,
Hmm.
because it is a tough deal. Most artists are starving. They're not going to tell you that, but they are starving. Some artists, not so much. But those artists, to your point, don't ask what the cost is for me to be successful. They supply it because it's what's needed. They look at it like a business. Like, if I can't invest in myself, I can't expect anyone to invest in me.
Hmm.
Um, like you, there's probably countless dollars you've spent that no one will ever know the proper amount that you've
Yeah,
spent.
I wouldn't even know.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
burn money where you just burned it. And that probably could have supplied someone with a good life. In promotions and marketing, there is a lot of that kind of expended money that
Hmm.
it's an expense. It's the cost of business. I'm realizing that with what I'm doing myself. Um, because when you're trying to do something, a lot of times that hasn't been done. In your case, you're trying to bring out an artist nobody ever heard of.
Hmm.
You're trying to get through, not everything's the same approach. You probably have multiple approaches in your bag. And each time you're just trying to see if one kind of is successful over the other.
Right.
Talk about, without maybe giving names, what was one of the hardest artists that you worked with or worked for? And to your point, you say you were about to walk away. What made you feel like this is bullshit?
I wouldn't say it was one artist.
Right.
It was just the multitude of artists calling me to hire me and lying about their money, and starting the process. I mean, it's like, I don't really look at myself as like exactly a business person. I'm more of a creative. Like when it comes, I've always written my own. I wrote music, played instruments. I was a professional dancer. I've always been a creative person, and marketing takes creativity and ideas.
Right.
So it wasn't necessarily one artist. It was just me putting my creativity and coming up with ideas over and over and over again. It took a lot out of me just for nothing to pay off. You know what I mean?
Right.
And after having a lot of success in my own personal career working with artists like from Miami and Atlanta, I took those experiences and what I learned back to Orlando and tried to work with a lot of Orlando artists. And that was where it was like I was no longer just getting a check to do my job. I was just coming out of my own pocket, or, you know, just not even getting a check, just doing it, you know, trying
Right.
to make the city look like something. You know what I mean? And that was where my frustration was. It was just like, God, could one person just be real and one artist just keep it real 100% and let's do this? Like, I know we could have success. The talent is out here, but not keeping it real fucks it up every time. And it's just exhausting, honestly. It's just exhausting. It takes a lot out of you to put in with these artists. And I mean, you could be on the road, like sleeping in your car, like trying to get a hotel room, but then they get an Airbnb and they're like, a friend is loud as fuck and you can't even rest. And it's just like, it's a lot, man. It's not all glamour and glitz. Like, the glamour and glitz is, if you see the video, it's still a lot of hard work. And then maybe we might go get VIP and have fun for a couple hours. That's it. The rest of it is not glamorous at all. It's rough. I mean, believe me, we have fun. I've had, man, listen, I've traveled. I've had the best time, yacht parties, mansion parties, like all of that. But those times are like this compared to like the whole situation. You know what I mean?
Right. Man, that's crazy.
No complaints. I'm just, you know.
Right. No, but people need to hear, because what I hear from that isn't a complaint. It's your dedication to your craft. If this is something that you do, you're wanting people to kind of just bring what they do to the table fully.
Exactly. Just be real. The most success I've had with independent artists are the ones who actually did keep it real with me, who told me, look, I don't have that much money, but whatever I do have to put into my career, I will. And then I was able to act accordingly, or even put in a little bit of my money here and there to make it work, you know?
Right.
But because of that honesty, I was willing to put in on it.
Right.
And the honesty and the realness will get you a lot further.
Do you think it sucks sometimes that it's not just artist-client relationship, and that you, like a lot of people, and I'll include me in it, you know, you want to believe in something, especially if you live in a city in which nobody's acting like they really give a shit sometimes about whether or not, you know, it's not that we're kind of making up shit. Like, we don't live in Cleveland. Cleveland is Cleveland. Like, we know there's little to, if any, about too many artists that have made an impact in the city. Orlando's not Cleveland. We got more than Bone. And, you know, it's just the idea of you wanting to believe, oh man, this dude sound dope, or this female sound dope. If she was just exposed and people could hear her, you know. Do you feel like Orlando does miss Orlando's Source and the Source Awards and what that was doing for Orlando? And I know it wasn't an easy thing, kind of you splitting apart from that situation, but just talk about, you know, the impact that had on the community, and, you know, how hard was that to kind of walk away from?
Well, I mean, Ozone Magazine, I mean, so incredible what we accomplished, I feel like. I mean, at the time when we started it, I was going to New York a lot. I worked for a lot of the record labels, and I would always take a box with me, and I would go to all the record labels in New York, and I would give them everybody in the offices. And I remember one of the head guys, I won't say his name because he's still in the industry, but he was just like, Mercedes, why are you wasting your time on this, like, Southern music? Like, it's all about New York right now, and da-da-da-da, you know what I mean? Like, just basically telling me how I was wasting my time. And I was just like, no, like, you have no idea the talent that we have. Like, I love Outkast, but we're more than just Outkast. Like, there's this whole Florida scene, there's this whole Atlanta and Georgia scene, and then you have Texas, and just it started spreading everywhere else. And I believed in it so much because I saw like the love that we got. Like, people were like, wow, we actually have a voice, and like will you please take my picture? Like, I just want to be in the magazine one time. And, I was so used to doing it. I didn't realize even at the time how important, I mean, I did, but I didn't. Like, when people would actually stop me and want their picture in the magazine, like how important it was to people that they felt so honored to like be in it. And that made me
Right.
feel so good, but looking back at it now, I see it more. Like, I really realize it. And when I look back through them, it's just like, wow, look at what we did. I feel like it played a huge, huge role in a lot of the Southern artists coming up. Like that was before we had this whole Atlanta scene. I mean, it was still trying to be something. And I really feel like we played a role. I mean, Julie and I would go everywhere. Like, we were never home. Like, I paid rent at an apartment that I was never in. It was just empty. You know what I mean? Like we were everywhere. Like every single award show, like the SEAs, anything that was going on in Atlanta, any music conference in the country we were going to. Julia and I flew out to Puerto Rico twice for the Mix Show Power Summit, which was probably the best thing that we ever did before creating Core DJs with Tony Neal. And that Core DJs becoming a thing. That Mix Show Power Summit was probably the most powerful, like, networking event that ever could have happened. That's actually where I met Guru and started working for him. And then the second time I went, I had just started working for Redman and went out there representing Redman. And the first record I actually ever helped break was with Grind Mode out there. I went out there with Booga the Governor from Miami and with the whole of Grind Mode, McCleasy and all them. And that was really my first real forte into like working a record and meeting the DJs and like really building those relationships. It was every DJ, every producer. I mean, I'm talking like that's where I met Kanye West. You know what I mean? That's where I met Pharrell, Timberland, 50 Cent. That was actually right before Wakesta came out and 50 Cent took off. That's where he broke his records. And but yeah, Ozone Magazine, I mean, that was probably the best thing we ever could have done for the South as a whole, not just Orlando. It definitely made Orlando be on the map because we were from Orlando. And I know everywhere I went, I had a 407 hat on, an Orlando hat on, Orlando t-shirt. Like, I made sure people knew that's where it came from, because I was proud of that. Like, look at what our city did. Like, look at what we created. I said, it started with Greg G doing Big Life Magazine. It was his idea. And then, here Bert bought it out and started the Orlando Source. And then the Real Source magazine actually was trying to sue us. And that's what we ended up being like, we're just going to do Ozone Magazine. So it changed to that. Right. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, that's probably one of the things I'm most proud of is what we did with Ozone Magazine. For sure.
I think that was, there should be some sort of hip hop museum in Orlando that
would be awesome.
Regards our people, our story in a way that, tells the entire story. What you guys did was the equivalent to what Magic Mike did for Orlando. It started with an idea. You got the whole city involved behind you. I watched that. I mean, everyone was looking for their, edition, their issue of them being somehow involved in that magazine. And it was just a good thing, man. It showed city pride in a way that, has not really been replicated since in that regard, because, once it disappeared, it seemed like we went back to our corners, if you will. And
thinking about it now, I'd have to agree with you.
Yeah.
And that's sad because it's like all these steps forward just to go backwards. It's frustrating.
Right. But, to be fair, that wasn't on your guys' responsibility. It once again, and this is what I always discuss sometimes with people that will listen, like, you can't be the hero of your own movie. When we're trying to do something that has not been done, you need help. And a lot of times, both sides are complicit in the idea of not helping one another because they don't see eye to eye. And that's not important in corporations. You know, that's not important in business. Burger King doesn't see eye to eye with McDonald's, but they can agree to, most of the times they're across the street from one another. They can agree on that.
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna put up a store and I'm not gonna be right across the street. Like, they can agree on that. Like, we have got to come to the space in our lives, you know, as a people, as a hip hop community, because we love this thing. We've given more than what is probably given to us. You know, your time, your money, all the dollars spent, maybe all the relationships that, you know, you gave up to be a part of it. Shit, a lot of people gave up children. A lot of people gave up going to school. A lot of people gave up everything.
I didn't go to college. I never got married. I never had kids. I tried having relationships, but imagine how successful men have a hard time finding a wife or a girlfriend to support them. Imagine being a woman with your own business, trying to find a man who is okay with that and not trying to shut you down all the damn time. You know what I mean?
Well, you're talking about partnerships, because the person has to be in partner with you. Like, once again, this thing of ours is very passionate. People are passionate about hip hop, you know, very opinionated, feel like, you know, well, I just have this view of it. But that's not always translated into business, because business can allow certain unifications that you'd be like, how the fuck is, you know, Microsoft and Apple working together? It's called Office, motherfucker. Or you can get Office on Apple, you know, because Apple does many things, but not Office. So, like, we have to just get to that space in our lives where, as a city, at least, that we start to begin to come together in a real way and say, you know, let's be the Office. Let's not just, you know, be on Microsoft computers. Let's be on Apple too, because we can do that. There's no other. I mean, we have so much talent here. We should be working together, just because we don't need to agree on everything. Shit, half of us don't even need to be friends, but we can agree we all live here.
Right.
We can agree we all can benefit from each other being in business. You know, even if that person over here is McDonald's, I can open up a Burger King. Somebody gonna want a Whopper because there's a McDonald's across the street.
I remember I used to do these meetups once a month, and I would invite DJs, producers, artists, songwriter, like anybody in the industry. You know, or the Jesse Jazz. I made it here before it finished.
Yep. Shout out to my man Jesse.
What up,
yes.
Jesse? I feel like I've known him like more than half my life. Damn, that's crazy. No, but I used to do these meetups, you know, for everybody in the industry to come just network. Because I was noticing just like, oh, we have these producers over here and these artists, and they don't even know each other. They could be making music together. And then the DJs, you know, don't even know that these artists have music. And the artists don't know to even go to the DJs and who to talk to. So I started putting these meetups together. And what broke my heart was after a couple of them, I remember I sent out the mass text inviting everybody, and somebody replied to me, meaning to send the message to their friend. It was like, oh, look, Mercedes is doing this, another thing again, probably trying to sell us something or do something like that. And I'm like, when am I ever trying to sell anything except for like just, hey, Ozone Magazine, we have an advertising special. And it just broke my heart that like somebody who was in the industry like I was, who I actually thought was cool, would talk shit about something I was doing for free. I was renting out the space, you know, inviting everybody for free. There was no charge. You know what I'm saying? And that was what really like just put like the icing on the cake for all the shitty attitudes that I always got from people, you know? And it's just like, God, all I want is to see everybody be successful. You know what I mean? It wears on you, but it hasn't gotten any better all these years later. You know, there are people who want to work together, but I feel like what you're saying, the people in positions of either power or have the money might not be doing enough, you know? And I feel like if the right people, like how we had Ozone Magazine, if there was something that could be like the nucleus of the city, and we
Right.
don't have that. That's what we're lacking. And,
Right.
What you're doing is part of the solution, like doing the interviews and telling the story of the city. You know what I mean? There's probably people who know who I am right now who have no idea that I go back more than the last 5 years, that I go
Right.
back 20 something years. You know
Right.
what I mean? They have no idea I worked with Redman. They might not even know who Redman is,
Right.
or worked with Guru, a legend, worked with all these record labels. I was part of the team that helped break Rick Ross, Gucci Man, Pitbull.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I was on all of those record label teams.
Right.
So, but yeah, I feel like there needs to be a nucleus, and I don't know the answer, but I think this conversation helps get it started at least,
Right. Well, we're not talking. So this will definitely help. And then we've all met someone that is either inspiring or pushing the conversation forward, or pushing this culture forward in a way, even if we don't necessarily know them. They might not even listen to the same fucking music, but we know that they're dedicated. We need to start reaching out to these people, and to your point, form a council, some sort of fucking commission where maybe it isn't the general public that's meeting up. Maybe it's just these people who wouldn't
trying to come up with ideas,
right, who wouldn't be meeting with you otherwise,
mm-hmm.
and sit these people down and discuss how we, with everything existing, whatever you're doing existing, whatever I'm already doing existing, and just find a way where we can all find one thing that we can agree on. And I think we'll get a lot further that way, because I think the people that have been in those positions to make those decisions, they're only interested in their shit. They're only interested in what makes their side work, but they're not interested in the overall. If you're a business person, opening one business is great for another business. Mm-hmm. That's why there's strip malls. That's right. Why there's malls. That's why there's,
right.
You want people that are doing what they're doing well already to commission other people that are doing well already, and that can add. And you're basically agreeing to, let's promote what we're all doing as a city collective, because nobody could feel some kind of way as if we're saying Orlando.
Right. And I kind of translate that to kind of how I tell artists, when you start seeing some success and you're starting to get up, you don't have to push everybody else down to get back up, because as a person, as a regular human being who listens to music, I don't listen to the same artist all day and night, 24/7. Like I listen to hundreds of artists. Right. So it's like, to me, it's not even competition. It's just who is making the best music and actually putting in the work to get it out there. And then if you look at like a lot of the Atlanta artists, how they do songs together, and they, they cross over, they all work together, and it creates a new sound. And I wish Orlando would realize that, because it's like,
first of all, I'm
not going to only listen to my artist. You know what I mean?
From the school, like Atlanta got most of its sound, that's well known from us. We took all the risk, and most of the people that were here when we were taking all the risk, they left. They left for either Atlanta or Miami. Yeah, but we took, the resources were here. That kind of thinking, that power thinking, where we're all kind of, let's take a little bit of that. Let's do this. Let's do that. that shit was annexed to Atlanta. Like you were saying earlier, a lot of these people, where's the incentive to stay here and say that they're from here? Well, if they do that, they're a lonely person on an island. We as a people, like I said, we have the responsibility because you're a veteran, you're a legend in this city, you're a veteran, you're well respected for what you've done already. You can quit right now and no one would think anything less of you. You've done amazing shit already. But the next level of shit is, how did we bring the entire city? How did we build a coalition of the willing?
I like that.
You know, what do we do as a community to say, all right, you know, we got all this crazy shit going on. We know the odds are against us because it would have been done already. What can we do to build a coalition that is not either, you know, kowtowing or, you know, trying to live up to someone else's expectations? It's okay if you think different. It's okay if I think different. You know, the people on the east side think different, north side, south side, whatever. You know, it's okay that they think different. That's not what's our barrier. Our barrier is that we're not using the talents that we all have to say enough is enough, because the leadership is going to bring the people together to say the demands that we need. Yo, how the fuck are you not playing these people? You know, these people aren't rejecting these people. These people are telling our story. What the fuck? You're not playing up? Like, all of this stuff we give DJs a pass. We give the radio a pass. We give the media a pass.
Well, that was my question that I wanted to ask you when you were done, is because you and I were both on the same radio station. Right. And I love 98.5 The Wire because of what they represented and what they represent still, you know, just playing local artists and letting you have a voice and you showing the city, these are some artists from Orlando that you might not have heard of.
Right.
And so, like, I always commend a DJ like yourself who isn't afraid to be like, okay, I'm going to listen to these artists from the city. And if it's hot, I'm going to play it. Like, no stipulation, no bullshit, you know?
Right.
But how do you feel as a DJ for, like, the DJs who are, say, like, out in the clubs? And I feel like it's gotten better than it was in the past with them playing local artists.
Right.
But it's still just not there. You know what I mean? But how do you feel like that?
Well, it's not there because, and shout out to DJ Recon. I had him on a few days ago, and he described what kind of pressure is on a DJ in a club. Not only, I mean, and once again, I feel like we are responsible, meaning the people, because we have allowed these Blutos, these tyrants, to dictate to us what we like. And a lot of it is like, okay, well, I remember DJing at the club back in the days and playing freely. Like, most of my career DJing at most clubs, and I've DJed, you know, at most of the clubs throughout the 90s in Orlando. Never once was I pressured to not play a record at all. I don't even remember somebody saying, don't play that record.
So I'll tell you the pushback I get from a lot of DJs, and you can tell me as a DJ how you feel about it, is, you know, the DJs will tell me, well, like, my job is to rock the party. And I respect that. You know, as a party promoter, I want my DJ to do the best he can to make people come back every time. Because what did Jesse say?
He said sometimes it's not the ones trying to help. Most of the times it's the ones who need the help that don't appreciate it and demand overnight success from those trying to help. He's absolutely right.
That's exactly what I think. That so many times people are unappreciative. I mean, that is so true. In
life, that is going to happen. With some, that's what makes the difference between a job and a purpose. Like a purpose is the one thing that can allow you to get past that quickly.
Yeah.
Because you're not here for gratification from them. You're
But
here
I
from
will tell you,
You're here
but
for
I
the
will tell
gratification
you,
from the universe.
I know, but I will tell you though, when you have put so much energy into somebody and for them to be unappreciative and talk shit
Right.
to you, I
Right.
mean, honestly, it's like being hit in the head over and over again.
Right.
And it's just like, how many times do you stand back up and you start losing that passion? Me
Right.
talking from personal experience, I have lost some of my passion and I've gotten it back working with new artists that I really believe in. But it really can like beat you down just in general, just where you lose that love for it. It's very frustrating.
Right. Right. Shout out to
Thank
DJ
you,
Shu,
Shu.
my brother.
Thank you,
Yes,
Shu.
you already know. But that's real. I mean, you know, I'm not saying it's easy because you asked me a question and I answered it. And by virtue of me answering it, it made it sound easy. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But when you're purposeful in what you're doing, you're not put off by people who do not appreciate what you're doing because you're getting your energy from a higher place. Like you've been put on the planet to do this. This is your gift. Like promotions and the science behind thereof is a gift.
Yeah,
and
I'm not
some
going to go
people are
be
good
a
at
nurse. I'm not going to go be a nurse or accountant tomorrow or doctor. You know,
Right,
this is
like, this is
what I'm
what you
doing.
do. This is what you do.
Yeah.
And you do it good. So, like, you know, the appreciation ain't coming from the people you expect. Normally it's coming, you know, like in that form. Like my brother DJ Shu, he just said the city owes her a thank you. Like, you know, those are the moments that should be lived for where there's a recognition.
And even that just made me feel like really good,
right,
you know?
Right. You know, like once again, business coalitions, partnerships are not based on they're not based on love and all of that stuff. Those are partnerships, and those things are based on logical step. 1 and 1 is 2. This works. I don't know why it works. I can't stand the motherfucker, but it works.
No, I like what you're saying. It's like if all the local barbershops in Pine Hills had an issue and they all came together to solve it. There's still competition,
right?
But they're fixing a problem for
together,
all of them together.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that
where
makes
there's
sense.
people, there's power.
Right.
Through our division is where the most of the action happens. While we're all kind of arguing amongst ourselves, this is where they can distract an artist and tell him any old kind of thing. So by the time he gets to people like ourselves or you or whoever, I had Paul Porter on last night, and he said the same thing. And I'm starting to hear this narrative in Orlando. Like, I actually heard this dude is on like 95.3, the whatever it's called now. And he says nobody's came in with music.
Who?
This is what we're doing. DJ Recon.
Oh, really?
He's like, nobody's came to him with music. This is
that's what I was saying earlier. The artists don't. Okay, this is what kills me is when artists say they put a song out and nobody's responding to it or playing it. And I was like, well, how did you put it out? Did you put it out on iTunes? That's different than saying to a DJ, I created this song. Here it is in your inbox for you to play and listen to. Because it's just because you put it all out on iTunes, I don't even know it exists as a DJ or a radio personality. Unless you physically tell me, hey, I made this song. Here it is. And I don't know why I have to explain that so many times to people.
You know what?
It's crazy to me.
To be fair to the ignorant, there's a lot of people to this day, right now, that don't know how to operate a smartphone, right? There's a lot of people out here today that don't know the concept of trolling and social media. There's a lot of people out here that because there's so much information, because there's so much YouTubes, because there's so much ways of doing one thing, does not make you, and you said this in the beginning of the show, just because it's there doesn't make you a promoter. You got 20 followers, doesn't make you this. Just because they're an artist, it doesn't make them a promoter. And I know the argument because, hey, part of being an artist right now, you got to be marketing and promotions. You got to be a quasi manager. You got to be.
But can I say this though? There are artists who do know better in the city, who have had certain levels of success that I feel like know better, and they get mad when DJs aren't playing their music.
Right.
And I mean, I'm sorry, but it's impossible to know every single artist and song that comes out. Because people will ask me, have you heard of this artist or their song? And I'm like, no. How have you not heard of that? You're Mercedes. And I'm like, listen, there is thousands. Like I have Gmail accounts that I pay for that are full. Like I paid that $10 a month and they're full. I can't get through it all. I can't get through it all. I mean, unless somebody calls me and tells me, I sent you a song, can you listen to it? I'm not even looking for it. Honestly, it's too much. I'm only one person. And that's how I respect DJs. Like, you guys are only yourselves. You don't have people working for you, you know, curating music. Like, I need to call you and tell you, hey, I have a record. Don't listen to it. It's in your Gmail. Let me know what you think. You know, I have to actually, like, say that. You know what I mean? Otherwise, how would you even know?
Paul Porter was on last night, and he said the very same thing. Really? He said, artists need to come up with a better way of asking people to listen to their music. Because to your point, I may not even give a shit about the music. To your point, I may be overwhelmed. I started this show 3.5 months ago, 4 months ago. I barely look at that email address anymore because it's just completely out of control. I can't keep up with it. Yeah. And it's not because I don't want to. It's just because
it's impossible.
It's impossible with people sending, and there's no connection. Jesse Jazz said it. My man Steph One said it. You said it tonight. Life is about connections. If a DJ's not playing your music, it's not because he hates it. Yeah, he may not even listen to it.
It's not like you heard it and said, fuck that guy. They don't even know it exists. They don't even know that you're a human being on this planet, probably. You have to let people know you are existing in this world.
Right. And that normally comes with, to your point, going outside, you know, meeting people, randomly talking to somebody sometimes. Maybe, you know how many, you know, weird mugs. I'm not saying they mean mugs, but the damn show weird mugs looking at me all crazy. I know I'm crazy looking. I know I'm crazy, but, you know, I know probably there was probably maybe 3 artists of the 10 I met.
Can I say something?
Go ahead,
if me at like 17, 18 years old can go out to BCR, Black Beach Weekend, or to Classic Weekend and walk up to every single person and hand them a flyer or a CD, so can everybody else.
Yeah.
Me as
shout
a kid
out to Remington.
doing that.
Yes, shout out to Remington. He said, yeah, let's go.
What up, Remington? But you know what I mean? Like, you can't be scared. I mean, you got to be respectful, you know, and get out there.
Here's the thing. Just because you're an artist does not make you a socialite. Okay? I know what we're asking of these artists now, and that's not the truth. That's not a fair expectation. Anyway, that's a setup for failure, if you ask me. Most of these fucking artists have social fucking issues. Like, they don't want to talk to nobody. They don't. But no, these artists existed our entire life. Like, I don't know most the time I've seen Prince in public until now, because there's YouTube footage of it. But most of
Right.
the time, he just put out records, and that's the only time I ever heard of that motherfucker. Like, oh shit, Prince just dropped a new album. Dope.
But if you're gonna be, if you have that kind of personality, then you need to have the right people around you.
Boom.
You know what I mean?
Boom.
You need to
That's
have
what I was
people-
getting to.
Then
That's
you
what I
need
was
someone like me who's gonna go talk for you. I understand
Oh.
that, because even
Oh.
me personally, like, it's okay. Honestly, like, hand to God, right? I am a promoter, but I am not like a social person. Like, I am very like by myself all the time unless I'm out with my artists.
Right.
I'm actually was always quite shy, and it boggles my mind that I even became a promoter. It's like, if you would have known me like in like before high school, and then saw me kind of just like grow through high school and be able to talk to people. I used to have to go to speech therapy to even talk when I was a kid. So it's just something I feel like some people could get over if they needed to. Some people really do have that social anxiety. But then I ask you, like, how are you going to go perform in front of 10,000 people at Rolling Loud, or 100,000 people, really, like hundreds of thousands of people?
I just want to make it. I just want to make this clear. In an artist having to do everything in lieu of us getting together isn't the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because that method, that approach is actually been working. Most artists take a city on their entire back, i.e. a Nelly, i.e. a Tech Nine, i.e. a Too Short, you know, whoever, you name them, pick them. There's been plenty of that business model, and that business model works in some scenarios. It just does. But for the most part, we need each other, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And the idea of these people, I mean, we're all running on heartbreak. Most people are telling each other stories about how this person screwed me, how this person was no good. I wasted a bunch of money. I wasted my time. Like, there's so many reasons to not get together, but we're missing the fucking point, which is with all those reasons, there's really one reason to get together. And that's because we are the fucking voice of the fucking people. They need to hear from us. We represent the people that have no talent to do what we're doing. They have no voice whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's hard for us? Imagine the people that can't even fucking, they don't even have the talent to speak. But they're writing our stories. They're writing our songs too.
Right.
I mean, because we're seeing this shit in real time happen.
That's
It's all going on.
Yeah.
And we're not fucking getting together knowing we need it. If we don't do it, and we're the soundtrack, we're the fucking, we're the people that initiate the ideas, that inspire the people to not get caught up in all of the madness and to not go on one side versus the other. Like, we are those people. We're the influencers. You're still, you could have gone with the flyers, the paper, and you're still at it, which means you're a part of the answer. I didn't know this was something for me to do. You know, I didn't know I was even good at public speaking in that regard, even though I rapped all my life. But that none of that's important. Because what's in front of me is I need to be a part of the answer. How do we as a city, as a community, as a people, put aside our petty fucking differences? Because in the end of our people having no voice, and we're the only one that are going to give them voice, not just only in a voice of representation as a visual, but in a representation of an audio where people can hear their truth as well, their understanding. Like, you know, one thing that's great about cities is that if you live there, the people in the cities get you. You know, New York might not get where Orlando's coming from. Fuck them. Miami may not get where we're coming from.
The whole country thinks Florida is crazy anyway.
Right.
They all think
fine.
we're out of our minds. Yeah.
But that's fine. They don't need to get us. Just like we don't need to get where, you know, how New York always thinks or how, you know, Miami always thinks. But we need to get each other. That's the bare minimum.
I like
that's
that.
the GED.
That's true.
That's the
Yeah.
GED. You mean we can, as a community, come together? There's still these gatekeeping ass motherfuckers sitting around here trying to stop progress because they want to be the ones with their name on it. Like,
So there's specific people
none of
that
that shit doesn't matter.
So there's specific people that you feel that way.
I'm
just wondering. I'm just curious.
That may be a part of that. Both things can be true, but my real focus is the nameless. It's those that know what they have and are not saying fucking nothing and not contributing to the answer, simply because maybe you're fucking behind it, or maybe it's me, maybe it's this dude down the street. We're stopping progress because we either know each other or we don't. Either we fuck with each other or we don't. Either, you listen to what I listen to or you don't. Like, all this petty ass shit that has nothing to do with the responsibility to which much is given, much is expected. We have been given a lot of blessings and the ability to work with a lot of great people and an ability to have a voice in such a big wasteland of people that may not have those voices. And
what you just said really kind of struck a chord with me, because I get so caught up in the day-to-day of what I'm doing with my artists that until I have a conversation with someone like you, which is very rare, about my whole career, I don't even think about, like, I've done all of these things over the last 20 something years, and I actually do have some kind of power. Like, I forget that for myself. So, like, what you just said kind of made me feel like, damn, I really do have some kind of responsibility to step it up and try to make something happen. And even though I am, for my specific artists that are signed to me, for the city as a whole, I feel like there's a lot more that I need to do. And that really just kind of, like, vibrated in my head,
Well, that's dope, man. That's the sound. That's the sound of our city right there. If that really touched you that way, then that's what's supposed to be happening right now. We're supposed to be talking to each other in a real way and figure out ways in which, at all times I have a responsibility. My brothers are now calling me journalist and media. Like, dude, I don't care how many drinks I may have had, how many blunts I smoked, how many drugs I did my entire life. You're calling me the fucking media. I'm the journalist. Like, I don't even understand any of that, but that's fine.
But it's true.
I listen to what they're saying, and virtually they're saying what I just said, which is the voice. I don't know why I was given this voice, but there it is, and I'm willing to work with anybody that is responsible and have their own voice, and want to be the voice of the voiceless, which those will always be the majority. We are a minority. People that can express the story in a real way are always going to be the minority, and we are money. That's why we are the minority. We have the power to influence, to deal and talk with each other. And we also have a responsibility to get over ourselves and say, you know what? My city is more important. There's a lot of people here that deserve a different future than what I had to put up with. And
that like what you said about responsibility, sometimes I have to remind myself the responsibility I have too. Like, even as a female, like, I've had girls come up to me and be like, you're the only female I've ever seen be a promoter. I mean, I know it's more common now, like these past, say, 10 years. But before that, I mean, I was the only female in the whole country with the street team. I would be on conference calls with the whole country for a record label, and I'm the only female. And then being part Cuban, that to me is another responsibility to represent Cubans and Cuban females. Like, there needs to be more entrepreneurship and there's more opportunities. And I feel like I need to, like, take that responsibility on too. I've thought about that before.
That's why the city respects you. You've done some legendary shit out here that my show ain't gonna have enough time to even fucking describe. But we've been down for a minute, and like we talked that night, which was crazy because even looking back at that conversation, I think that was the first time we really talked in this
like in depth, yeah,
in this space, so that you can understand where I'm coming from and
Yeah.
why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so many bridges, so many buildings wouldn't be burned down if we just had those kind of conversations.
Yeah.
Which, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing this. And not doing this in the sense of flossing. This is what I came here to do. And
Right.
I told you candidly, and I say it all the time. I'm still saying it. There's no reward in being in the media in that regard, outside of the job, which the job is to speak for the voiceless. But there's no reward in that. You put your family out there to be exposed for criticism. Everybody's looking for dirt on you. I don't, there's nothing in this world that would make me want to do what I'm doing right now. There's nothing outside of the purpose that I need to do this. Our city deserves it. For the longest time, the only people we've heard from was people who were friends or people who all got along. That's not the fucking story of our city. The story of our city is conflict. The story of our city is not only friendships, but the friendships that were forged through fire, right? Like things that were, made because there was a necessity. Necessity is the mother of the invention. When you don't have shit, you make shit. That's why we love hip hop. Like we created something out of nothing. And this is our moment, I believe. Yeah. Atlanta had their moment. LA had their moment. Miami had their moment. I think this is our moment to forge through fire this moment in time where all of us, all clear-minded people that, are thinking bigger than themselves and not worried so much of whether their name will be mentioned from their partners they're working with, but from the people. And that's what I'm anticipating. I can't wait for that moment where we're all kind of in awe that we supplied or provided some sort of straightening, if you will. Florida shit, straightening. Like, let's straighten this out.
All right, shit.
Right, right? And just give some straightening to this whole situation, and that it's deserving of it,
And what you were saying about putting yourself out there with scrutiny, even when Jesse Jazz had Orlando Hip Hop and the internet had really just started, I remember on that forum, like I would promote something and then there would be people under there talking shit. Oh man, Mercedes Street, she's so ugly, she's so fat, she's this, she's that.
Right.
And I'm like, that blew my mind because I didn't have any reference. And
Right.
I'm speaking on this because I know people have this problem even more so now. But
Right.
I had to fight against shrinking away from the public because of that. It hurts so much. Like I'm very
Right.
strong, but I'm still a person and I'm sensitive. And especially when you talk about the way somebody looks, like talking about how I'm ugly, it's just like, man, if you had any idea what I've survived, like I've been through a windshield on the turnpike going 80 miles an hour. Like I'm lucky my face is even still on my face. You know what I mean? Like I had glass in my face was fucked up. Like I'm lucky I look the way I look, but it still hurt. People would do that. And I think it just needed to be said because I know a lot of artists face that scrutiny being out in the public and even media, DJs, personalities,
Any person that's in the face of others, there's a cost. There's an exchange happening. For
Yeah.
the money that they're receiving, which everybody celebrates, everybody seems to have something to discuss about what they receive. They don't know what the artist or those people are giving up. They're giving up privacy. They're giving up certain freedoms,
Mhm.
and the ability to, and a lot of people go in with good intentions, and then they become the very monster that they received, which is a lot of this is monstrous. The way
I've
people
seen
deal
the
with you,
I've seen the egos, you
right,
know, explode and
right,
become a monster. So I
right,
get it.
right, and it's tough, man. So that's why it's not logical, but that's why you should always be be wary of drawing judgment of why others are not good at other things than others, because some people embrace fame because some people are better at it with fame. I've rapped all my life. I've been in the public eye in my city most of my life. This is a different kind of fame, and I know what that fame entails. Um, when you're giving people a voice, it's a power, it's a sharing of information, and I know that shit is real. And for what you do when you go out there and publicly promote people that you believe in, there's just as many people ready to tear you down for it.
Yeah.
And when you think you're alone is when all the things that can and will happen will happen to break you down and get you out of it, because you feel you're isolated. But being
Yeah.
a part of a unit, a coalition, if you will, of people who have similar interests, just like I
Mhm.
said, in Vegas, their business model is if you're in hospitality and you serve, you're going to be a part of a union. Um, they're not going to be the richest people on the planet. They're not trying to be, but you're not going to treat us any old kind of way. I think
Mhm.
hip hop needs that. I think the DJ community needs that, because a lot of these owners and promoters molest and rob DJs for
Yeah.
their kindness and goodness, and destroy a lot of good talented people, just like record companies do. They take a
Yeah.
great artist that wanted you know to feed his family and to maybe give back to his community, and they make them into monsters because their only weakness was they they allowed them in. And so we all need protection in that way. And the only way you truly get protection is through unity, not through isolation. There's so many people that have taken their lives, not because they thought they had everyone, because they thought they were alone.
Yeah.
And part of your art makes you feel like you're crazy by yourself. Shout out to my man DJ Shu on the check-in. That motherfucker is crazy as hell, but he know he ain't alone because he's in hip
That's a
hop.
good point. That's a real good point, Shu. I like that.
Yep.
That was well said.
Yeah. So we all need to be better stewards of it because we've all been molested by it. I can't yell at you and say, "Oh, you should have been doing all this," and you were raped, but yet I was molested. Like my
Right.
molestation was was more important than your rape. We
But I've
have
I've
to.
had people come at me though like that. Like, why
Right.
haven't I done more? And it's like, you know, what do you want me to do? Like I said, I'm not a record label. I don't have the money, the $1 million to put behind, a label and have artists. All I can do is with the contacts I have and the people who I feel like I don't want to say deserve, but actually worked and came to me and talked to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just going to randomly find somebody and just be like, I know you exist. Like, unless you come to me and talk to me, I don't know what you want me to do. Because I have had artists come to me like, I've been putting music out for a year and you've never like played my music, and I'm like, well, did you ever tell me? And I mean, I know I'm kind of going backwards to what I was talking about before, but it's one of my bigger frustrations. Because I have, especially when they attack me and act like I should have done something for them.
Yeah, but that's because you, like I said, once again, and I'm not speaking for all depression. I have kids that suffer depression, and part of the voices that depression gives freely is this idea that you're alone. And when you realize that you're not alone, you don't even listen to those voices. But they only work when you feel in that space where you're alone. And a lot of us are all sitting here fighting our battles by ourselves, feeling like the world don't understand us. And that's because we're not talking, first of all.
And I feel like that's been one of the biggest downfalls of my career not being where I think it could be at this point, is working alone. Because I tried working with people, having an assistant, having partners. And I mean, I could be here all night telling you all the shit they put me through, try to steal my company from me, had an assistant, steal all my contacts. So then I feel like I have to do this all by myself because I can't trust anybody. And trying to find a way to work with somebody, but also build trust, it's just like, where do you even begin with that? You know what I mean? Because I know how much further I could be in this industry, but trying to do everything by my damn self,
It's just like that guy that gets divorced, or the woman that gets divorced, and they feel like that's the only person they ever could connect with, and they're not even looking, and they wake up one day and they found the right person. Like, we have to just, once again, just, this is a music. This is a real love. Hip hop is not logical. It isn't. It represents to me everything that's not logical. There's no way in hell a scratch should sound that fucking good, or some noise on a beat should sound that fucking good. There's no other example of it in history, but yet it does, and it is. And, it requires some illogical steps with that as well. This is still rather young, and we're still kind of working out all the kinks. And we're from a city, once again, that, we've suffered in our representation of it, in our unification of it. We've said you can't be involved because you're not as good as us on one end, and then said on the other side, I don't know you, so you can't be involved. And so we've created this isolating situation in which everything is you're betting on this one horse to win it all. And every time it seems the same formula. Oh, I got this new horse, man. We're betting it all on this. And, totally eluding or totally bypassing the idea of business models that have been in existence forever, which is, i.e., the magic. You build a house and you put Orlando on it, people are going to come. Even if they're not winning, they're going to come because it's a way to be with your people in the city. It's a way to know, like you were saying, your part of promotions is being with the people. We got Orlando Lions. People go because it says Orlando on it. It's feeling like you're being with the people of your city. We have to come to terms with this idea of how we can be better stewards with each other in the city, and just get over ourselves, get over our pain. I know that shit sounds fucking easy, and it's not.
No.
But sometimes the answer is not comfortable. Sometimes the answer is comfortable. Do I have an idea
on how to start that process?
Well, we're starting it right now tonight, Mama. We're talking. Yeah. I think that's a beautiful thing. I think you remember things that are good, right? Like
Yeah.
hopefully the word gets out that, because like I said, I've known you before I left to Kansas City,
Mhm.
but we didn't have that conversation. You know what I'm saying? So like for a lot of people, sometimes, and I'm agreeing with you, sometimes you need to have that conversation just to to gauge where your people are at. Sometimes you need to know where they're at as a unit. I'm not claiming to have the answer. My only hope is that I'm a part of the answer.
I
I'm
agree.
willing to work with anyone who feels that the business should be bigger than themselves,
Yeah.
because that is more sustainable. If it's just relying on me having the answer, that business may be successful, but it will be a Walmart, and no one else gets to be involved. And if we're
Mhm.
talking about our city, it should be sustainable. It should
Right.
be an idea that we can all share and all manifest differently, right? Like we should all have some sort of interest in that. I don't know what that looks like, but I know I'm willing. I know this show. Um, I wanted to just interview people, but then it just morphed into talking with my people.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where I want the show to inevitably go, us talking with each other as human beings instead of talking at each other or past each other. Um, I love the shiny objects. I get all of that. Shit is dope. But I mean, us
It's
being
deeper.
able to
It's deeper than
reason,
that, though. It's deeper
us
than that.
right, us being able to reason in public and give an example of how maybe two people from different sides of town, different approaches to what they do, are legends in whatever the fuck they do, and they're reasoning in a different way, showing that it's okay to grow, showing that it's okay to reinvent yourself, showing that it's okay to take on maybe something that you had no interest in, allows people to be okay with things that they weren't okay with yesterday, which is, I'm not from Orlando, man. I was born in this place.
Right.
I'm not from Orlando, man. Like, it's crazy how people will turn themselves in a pretzel to not be from here, but won't turn themselves in a pretzel to reason with one another and to and
Right.
to just come together on some different shit. Money's not the answer. We all got money. We all lose money, but money isn't the answer. Where the real power lies is in our understanding. If we can't find some way to fucking understand where we're coming from, or what we want, or what we see, or what we envision with the city, like what I see in the city or what I envision in the city should not shade what you're doing. It should
Right.
it should only add to it,
Yeah.
because you can't make up the whole city yourself. And anyone expecting you to do that is a fucking idiot. It's just not fair for you to put those expectations on you or anyone else to do it
Right.
when there's so many other people that can add to what you're working on.
Like
We can.
you can't DJ at every radio station or DJ at every single club.
No.
There has to be more than one DJ.
Right.
Same thing with the
Right.
artist. There has to be more than one artist. You can't
Right.
have the same producer produce every single damn
No, man.
track.
No,
Like there
man.
has to be a variety.
Right. And it just puts all of this unnecessary pressure on the very people with the responsibility to speak for everyone. I don't see that being a great plan. But I do see the business models already laid out, and I don't even have to think that hard. Like, there's this idea of togetherness everywhere else. Say what you want about New York and their boroughs, but they all had this idea of we're representing our city. When you hear any media, see any radio, you're gonna know we here, and we need that for our city. And like most things, people ain't gonna move until there's a demand. Well, we're not demanding it, nor are we inspiring to demand. We're inspiring each other to be that much more divided. Only support this. And if you're not doing that, then you suck. You know, resentment is part of the reasons why partnerships never, you know, foster, if you will, because, you know, when people resent people for going about it the way they're going, it just makes people angry. And that's not productive in a business sense. But if you can all share, which I'm just from the mindset of you doing Hottest in the Hood. There's a place for Hottest in the Hood and the Sound of Orlando and whatever else is going to be there, because they don't hear us enough.
Right.
They're not hearing us enough. There should be plenty of room for everyone to tell their story, and we should be promoting all of it because it's in the interest of our place where we live, where we got to live every fucking day. How could we not? It's just, I know I'm crazy.
I agree. No, you're not crazy. I completely understand where you're coming from. I've been where you are right now, you know, and I am with this conversation, I'm feeling it again. You know what I mean? But like I said, I've been beat in the head and so many different times that I have to like regenerate my energy and my love for what you're saying.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And to be purposeful, right? Like the idea of it being bigger than you. If it's about you, then all things will be true. But if it's bigger than you, then just like myself, like I don't want to do this, still don't want to do this, but we need this. And if I'm going to live here for however much time I'm living here, I just feel like my time is better well suited, me giving everything I got to this fucking city so that they know that they're being listened to, that I get it.
I think that same mind frame is what made me still be here. Even with everything that's happened to me, especially in this past year with my ex-partners trying to steal my company from me and having to fight for it. I'm still here and I still want to make it happen. And all the ideas that I had are still there for what I feel like could be so good for the city. Right. And I don't want to give that up. So I definitely feel you, like it's bigger than just me, because honestly, at a certain point last year, I was like, fuck this shit, fuck everybody, fuck the world, everything in it. I'm done. I'm just going to go get a fucking job and live my life. Like I was really there, but you know, then you sit there and you think about it, what your life would be. And it's like, this is all I know. This is what I love. Like, I can't just not work with music or in entertainment, especially hip hop. A lot of people have tried to get me to go work in other genres of music. And I'm just like, what would I do with techno? I don't know what would I do with dubstep or whatever the hell all of that is? Right. I don't do this just as a business to pay my bills. Like, I love hip hop. I grew up on hip hop. I grew up between, you know, living in Florida with all the Florida rappers and, you know, 2 Live Crew and all that stuff, Jam Pony, you know what I mean? And then all my New York friends putting me on to New York hip hop. I grew up with all of that. Like, I do this because I love the music. And I love the way that you can express yourself. Like I said, I used to write, I used to sing. I was very much into the music side of it, you know? It's not just like, oh, I'm going to go work with country artists now. Shout out to my man, DJ Shu, man. One of our great supporters of the show in the city. And, you know, I just wanted to say, talk about the Hottest in the Hood, because you mentioned it a few times, alluding to it, about the ideas being stolen. And I only have one thing to say about that. Your purpose is constantly evolving. And I'm only saying it because I'm witnessing myself.
this is where I didn't think I would ever be going to. Maybe the world's seen it, maybe I didn't. Maybe Pepsi turned into Diet Coke. I don't know. I missed the entire class. But what I do know is this. What is yours cannot be taken. What is yours will evolve. And maybe the biggest fight you'll ever have in your life is not that someone else is taking it, is that you're able to keep up with what you have within you, whether you're able to appreciate the evolving of what that is for you. And sometimes you just have to be, that's what gives you the power to let things go. Because if it's for them, if it's for them, if whatever they're taking is for them, then it's not yours. And if it's yours, they can never take it.
Well, it was like a legal thing, the way paperwork was done. Yeah. It's all fixed now. Right. But I was just giving it to you as an example of the greater purpose, because at that point I really was just like, fuck this shit. Like after everything I've done, even just in the personal lives part of it, who I thought these people were my friends, you know what I mean? To do that to me was just like, fuck this shit. Right. But because of the greater purpose that you were speaking of is why I am still here and not just completely disappeared, you know, changed my number that I've had for 15, 20 years that I've never changed. You know, that like, because all of those thoughts went through my head, but I know there's so much more for me to do that I want to accomplish and do for the city. Right. Because I'll never stop believing in the city.
And that shit requires pain sometimes.
Yeah. And it was a lot of pain.
Yeah. So purpose at many points in your journey is going to require certain pain, as well as it, you know, we all celebrate the happiness from purpose, but that shit, like you said earlier, is like this. Yeah. And you gotta celebrate those moments. Yeah. Because most of it is all pain. It's the things that people don't see. It's all the times you didn't sleep, or you had to go right into work after you spent 16 hours trying to push what you love, and nobody sees that fight. They don't see all the things you got to give up. No, I can't do that. I can't, you know, we're all battling, man. It's easy for us to say I battle more than you, except maybe it requires 8 hours of your time to give up that amount. Maybe it only requires me 3, and I gave up more than you when I did those 3 hours. We don't know.
Yeah, you can never compare. Yeah, you can never compare these battles. That's one thing I've learned as I've gotten older is we all have that pain and suffering and giving up things, you know. The people who I feel like are good, who are working towards something, not the people who are the, you know, aggressors taking, you know what I mean? I have no respect for those people, but the people like us who have put everything, like our heart and soul and lives into what we do and love and care about, you know, you can't compare it, you know. All the conversations I've had with people and what they've gone through, artists that you think are like on top of the world, sleeping on somebody's couch, you know what I mean? Like people will never know. They just see what they see.
Or insecure.
I mean, all these are. I had an artist. I've had 3 artists die in the past less than a year, and it, like 2 of them were overdoses, and the third one was from overdosing later on, basically. Crazy. You know what I mean? And it's just like, what didn't I know? You know, one of them was a kid. One of them wasn't even 18 yet. He was 16, just turned 17. You know, and the other one, not even 30, in his 20s, an artist that I was working with. It's just like, you don't know what they're dealing with. Like, you think they're okay. They're the ones that are always, you know, laughing and joking and entertaining and making you feel better because, like, you're tired and they bring an energy out of you. And it's like, you don't even know, you know. And I think of all the other artists that I don't even work with that have died because of overdosing. And it makes you really wonder what pushes them to that point to do that so much, you know?
Right. I want to touch on before because I knew it, you knew it. We were going to talk for a minute, but I want to talk about the hottest in the hood
Okay.
and what got you into that, and you know some of the things that you're managing a couple artists. One of my favorites, Granddaddy South, representing the city. So talk about the mindset that went into hottest in the hood, and then you going into managing artists, which to me you were always a manager, you just didn't know it. But
Yeah. Well, I started managing artists maybe 10 years ago. And the two that I was managing, one of them moved back to Texas too. I'm still basically like his booking road manager, but with COVID, we haven't really been able to do anything. The other one, he was actually living with me at the time. He was my roommate, and he went to Atlanta and got killed in a car accident, drinking and driving. And that's what stopped me from managing, because it was just like
crazy.
he wasn't the only one that passed away. Like there's other artists that passed away also or ended up in jail. And I got really frustrated because at doing with the management, you're putting everything into it. Nobody's giving you a check. And I was used to getting at least a check for promotion and marketing. But I
Right.
had the money at the time to sustain my life and start doing management, because I'm thinking that's the next natural step. Anyway, that ended then. And then I met Trigonometry through Granddaddy South. Actually, I brought Granddaddy South to interview him at the radio station at 98.5, and he brought Trig with him. And that's how I met him and started talking to him about what he had going on, listening to his music. And I'm just like, well, what do you have? Like, who are you working with? He didn't have a manager. He's like, everybody I talk to is trying to charge me money. They're trying to, promise me things. I've given people money. They didn't do what they said they were going to do. He's like, I just need somebody to work with me and like be real and be honest. And that's what brought me back into doing management again. And then when I started working with him, Granddaddy South came back around and was like, well, shit, I need a manager just to manage, my bookings and stuff when he's getting booked for some of these concerts. So I was
Right.
just like, you know what? I'll give it another shot. I won't say it's been easy. Um, it's been probably one of the most challenging things in my career, honestly. But I feel like it's the next step naturally, because I can put everything that I've learned all these years and all the contacts I've made to finally, put something out there that I can put my stamp on. It wasn't Rick Ross's label, E-Class, hiring me to promote Rick Ross and breaking his record, which I don't really. My only claim to that is I promoted the record. I wasn't involved in making the record and coming up with the promotional ideas and the content, But like
Right.
with Trig, I've been able to help him create, the slogan and like the full legal name and just all the concepts for the videos. I've been able to put everything into that situation that I've learned all these years and see it actually come into fruition. Like the video, you can go watch it. I booked this place. I had the idea for this. I got this, car. You know what I mean? Like I put it together. So
Right.
now I'm feeling like my creative energy is on something. Like that's my creative energy helping express what he already puts words. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Talk
oh, go
about
ahead.
that hottest in the hood too. Like
Okay. So
that.
that first came about. I wish I could. I was trying to research it to remember what year it was, but it was over 10, maybe 12 years ago. Greg G and I were promoting Hand in Hand Icon in Cairo, and they told us we could have our own night. And Greg G was like, you're doing these showcases for the core DJs. Why don't we do one in Orlando? So we came up with Hottest in the Hood, and we started doing the Hottest in the Hood artist showcase once a month at Icon. And that was the first, like, I feel like actual showcase that was at a real club, you know, with the audience. It wasn't just the artists looking at each other. I feel like we did a really good job. I mean, and then that's when a lot of other people started trying to do their own showcases, and it got
Right.
kind of oversaturated. So about, I guess, like a year and a half ago, 2 years, I was like, man, that Hottest in the Hood, that name, is so good. Like, I've got to bring it back and do something with it. So I just brought it back and made everything, be under one incorporation with Hottest in the Hood. So I started doing the showcases again. And then the whole concept, though, that I'm building the website around is to promote independent artists. Like, you are the hottest in your hood. Why are you the hottest in your hood? You can post your videos, go do interviews, any kind of content, and base it like Orlando, and break down the hoods. And I actually, the first one we did was with Clint Dog, and we went into Tangelo Park and followed him around, met the people in Tangelo Park. You could see this, like, the actual hood, like, you get a taste of what it is to live there. So that's the main concept that I feel like is going to make us different than just the other people who are sitting there with a tripod interviewing somebody, dead face, like, with no emotion, and it's boring. We're actually going to show you where the artist is from, the barbershop they go to, the restaurants they go to, wherever they hang out at, and kind of see what made them who they are as an artist, and actually have a conversation with them, really get to know them in their own element. So that's the concept behind Hottest in the Hood.
Well, shout out to Tangelo Park, TP. What's good with you? Shout out to Motown, Richmond Heights, all that. Before I let you go, Mama, you dropped so many bombs tonight. We're really going to have to kind of rewind this whole thing and kind of look back at it. But what will not be missed in this show is your candor, your passion, and what you've done for the city. And to DJ Shu's point, the city has to thank you, because without people like yourself out there putting it all on the line, and a lot of times, like you said, it not working out, sometimes it just being, you in this business and promoting and putting words out and speaking to the people. By that alone, you create enemies, you create conflict, you create, a lot of situations in which maybe you can't walk over that bridge again. You have to burn it completely down to the ground. But
we didn't talk about any of the dangerous situations I've been in, like dealing with.
Give me some. Talk about it. Talk about it. Say it. That's your moment.
I would say one of the worst ones is in Jacksonville at Super Bowl. I was out there with a big street team working with G Unit, and we were out there in front of a club, and it just got dark, and there was nobody around except for me and my street team, and we're all kind of spread out. And this car pulls up, and the guy gets out of the car and puts a gun to my head, like basically puts me in a neck lock and puts the gun against me. And he's just like, he's speaking so weird. He's like, I recognize you as the leader. And I'm just like, what? And he's like, I can laugh about it now, but he had just got out of jail because his friends were trying to calm him down, right? And I guess Jacksonville is dangerous, you know what I mean? Like, we all know. So I guess he was part of some gang. And in his, like, drugged out mind, it was like we were in his territory as a gang. And I don't know if it was because we had the G Unit posters or what. I mean, I wasn't trying to, like, figure it out. I was just being calm and just, like, letting his friends try to chill him out. But luckily, somebody from my street team saw what was happening and called the G Unit guys that were in town with all the G Unit Hummers. And they came speeding around the corner, and the guy just, like, they all took off, thank God. So I guess G Unit saved my life. But that was probably one of the craziest ones. I mean, that's just like an example, I guess.
Well, but as much as your ass has been in the streets, there should be a book of the crazy fucking shit you've seen throughout your tenure in promotions, because you can't be in the streets that long without seeing crazy shit, and that crazy shit becoming normal. Like, okay, this is par for the course.
That's how I felt at the time. I'm just like, this is happening. you know.
Man, like I said, you've done so much legendary stuff in the city. The city's better for it because you did what you did. I know you weren't expecting an answer out of me because I can't give it. That's not my job. I don't know what the answer is.
I just want to get like, your idea, what you might have had in mind, just to build off of. Because
but I do know it
like
comes
where you're
with a
going.
coalition.
Yeah,
It comes
I agree
with us connecting in a different way, in more of a way of, okay, this is what I can bring. This is what I can bring. This is what I can bring. Okay, how do we scale that? Part of doing any kind of graphic work is the ability to scale. And shit got to be PNG. If it's a JPEG, it's going to pixelate. So we got to remove these JPEG motherfuckers out of our lives so we can concentrate on the PNG people and the people that can scale.
I like that.
What can we do as a people who have these grandiose ideas and have just enough courage to see it through? How many of those people? We need to have an account of them. Somebody needs to know, who's doing what in the city to contribute, who would be well suited for this or that, and who has the. I mean, once again, whether you're broke or you're paid, all of this shit requires courage, because there's going to be a lot of people telling us why not to do it.
Yeah.
Because if we're not new to that already, we already know how many
my whole
people are
career.
Right.
My whole career has been telling me I'm crazy.
Right.
Like, you're a girl, you have a street team.
But what's
doing?
what's real crazy, mama, is when you start hearing shit like, oh, you with them? That shit. Because once again, you're not just rumpling the feathers of people that were here before. You're rumpling a lot of feathers of people who love the status quo, or benefiting right now from it being the way it is, which is unbelievable to you and I, because how does that make sense? But there's a lot of people. That was my question. There's a lot of people benefiting to the way it's been, to the fact that it hasn't changed. And those people might be a minority of a minority, but they still are in positions of power. And we are going to ruffle those feathers when they see those people from that part of town, from that way of thinking, from that sector of the community. Like, all of these people are getting together and saying enough of that. And they have the power not only to do that, but to influence others to get along. I mean, we're dealing with it all over the country right now.
Yeah.
So if this ain't the moment, I don't know what is. We probably won't see the next moment, is what I feel. But this is a moment. Yeah. That right now the whole world is listening. And if we're smart and if we're about our shit, we'll take this moment and actually use this moment for what it should be. And that's about them hearing our motherfucking sound and them hearing our motherfucking story from this city. Right. Because we have no excuse to not take full advantage of this moment. Right. And there's the right players still around. We don't need them all. We just need enough. And I think we do. I think if we really look through our Rolodex and see who's still alive, who's still around, who came back, who never left, whatever, that we could find enough people with the power in their own right to do whatever they need to do to find one thing we can agree on, and that's our city. So if that's if that gives you more insight on where I'm at, let's continue the conversation, mama. You got my number. This is where I'm at. This is what I believe in our city. I'm supporting you. I'm rooting for you. Anywhere I can help, You got my help, and let's continue the dialogue until we find enough players that are willing to make this happen. We deserve it. We need it more than anything
definitely
else.
need it. Yeah,
We need it. And I know there's enough people that feel the same way. They're just waiting on the right people. Maybe maybe you needed to be hurt to start this next movement or next chapter. Maybe we needed to all be kind of touched, if you will.
I know I needed that. I mean, I've been feeling so isolated just because of the pandemic. You know what I mean? It's just barely being out and seeing people. Yeah.
You're not alone. We're all kind of winging this, but I think that's where all the power lies, because we're all kind of going through this together. And the more we talk, the more we're going to accomplish it. Let's do it.
I'm down. I love it.
I'm with you.
I'm with you. I'm with it. I like it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Give it up for the legendary, the one and only. If you don't know about anything going on, and if you do know what's going on, it is because of this woman right here. She is the street team of the city. Give it up for Mercedes Streets, man.
Thank you. I needed that. Thank you. I love you too. Thank you.
Give it up for my sister, man. This is what we do. We talk to our city. We deal with them like that. This is what we're doing, man. Hey, if you know anybody out here that needs to feel like we're together a little bit more, why don't you do something for yourself and let's talk to the people, okay? My girl said it tonight. She said, hey, we need to be out there with the people. Fred Hampton said it, where there's people, there's power. Man, let's take this moment, man, to acknowledge our true powers in our discussion. When we start to get away from that and start to think it's what we have, all that shit will be burned down tomorrow, and you ain't got nothing. So now, where does the discussion begin? All my peoples, man, I love y'all. Thank you for joining the social. Tomorrow we have Shinobi Stalin, legendary MC in Orlando, man. Give it up to him, man. Tomorrow, that's what we're doing. Sound of Orlando, baby. Better ask somebody.
Live on stage. The sound
of Orlando.
So, is they ready?